Are you struggling with unexplained weight gain or weight loss resistance? Do you suspect that your hormones have something to do with your inability to lose body fat? If so, keep watching, because in this video, I'll explain why it's so hard to lose weight during perimenopause and menopause, and more importantly, how you can overcome hormonal weight loss resistance using functional medicine. Menopause and perimenopause before it comes with a perfect storm of hormonal shifts that can seriously impact your waistline, and not in a fun way. As more research is being done to investigate the health risks associated with menopause, it's becoming more and more clear that weight gain in your late 40s, 50s, and 60s has less to do with willpower and more to do with the domino effect of changes in your body's production of estrogen, progesterone, and androgens like testosterone. These changes can and do result in symptoms like unexplained fat gain, especially in the abdominal region, inability to lose body fat, sudden and unexplained elevations in cholesterol, increased blood glucose and hemoglobin A1C, and trouble building muscle. Not to mention increased risk of osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, and even Alzheimer's. But why is this happening? And what can you do to finally lose some body fat? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore. But first, we need to get on the same page about what the transition into menopause means on a hormonal level, and how to determine if these changes are at the root of your weight loss resistance. But before we can talk about menopause, we need to give a shout out to perimenopause, the period of hormonal winding down that occurs between your reproductive years and your postmenopausal years. Perimenopause can last anywhere from a few years to a decade, with the average being around 5 years. If you have ovaries, you'll go through it, even if you've had your uterus or fallopian tubes removed, or if you've had an ablation. Only if you've had a total hysterectomy or you're taking hormone-blocking drugs do you skip perimenopause and go straight into menopause. It's during perimenopause that most women notice changes, particularly in the form of baffling and frustrating weight gain. And it's almost always shrugged off by conventional providers. Many people think that perimenopause and menopause involve a slow, steady decline in sex hormones. But it's actually more like a roller coaster that jerks you around for literal years. The shift typically starts when progesterone begins to decline. This can happen gradually or intermittently. By the time you're fully menopausal, progesterone will have dropped from 30 to 40 milligrams to less than 1 milligram, so it's a big deal. It's important to note that this decline in progesterone is first triggered by the brain, which is why things like stress, medications, environmental toxicants, and even alcohol can have such a huge impact on your symptoms during menopause. Before perimenopause, your progesterone may have held estrogens in check, but during the decline, more estrogenic symptoms can start to break through. More on this in a minute. Speaking of estrogens, these hormones are known to swing wildly during perimenopause because the brain isn't communicating as well with the ovarian cells that make estrogens. So symptoms can vary greatly day to day and month to month. Eventually, estrogen, specifically estradiol, will decline and result in irregular or absent menstruation. Once you've gone a full calendar year without menstruating, you're officially in menopause. Hormones in menopause are typically characterized by low levels of estrogens and progesterone. But even though your ovaries aren't cranking out hormones like they used to, we don't want you to drop all the way to zero. As you're about to learn, these hormones are in charge of a whole lot more than fertility, and maintaining adequate estrogen activity after menopause is crucial for preserving brain function, bone health, and overall longevity, not to mention maintaining a healthy body fat percentage. One more important note: the menopausal hormonal shift is often accompanied by big changes in a woman's external circumstances as well. During this key time frame, many women find themselves caring for aging parents, transitioning their children into adulthood, sometimes acting as caregivers for grandchildren, as well as navigating changes in their relationships, professions, and finances. Perimenopausal hormone changes can also shift the way your body responds to stress, lowering your stress resilience and raising chronic stress hormones like cortisol, which add an additional layer to menopausal weight gain, sometimes literally. So it's important to recognize, assess, and address chronic stress on a physical level as well. I'll queue up another video for you to watch after this one with more info about stress and weight gain. Speaking of assessment, what if you're experiencing all the symptoms of hormonal shifts, but you're not technically in menopause? Or perhaps you had an ablation, so you don't get periods, but you're not sure where you fall on the hormonal spectrum? Well, this is where testing comes in, and I don't mean blood testing. Serum lab testing is not a great way to measure hormones like estrogen and progesterone, particularly in perimenopause and menopause. However, dried urine testing can be used to assess key things like, is your progesterone declining? Do you have adequate DHEA production to make hormones outside the ovaries? Is your cortisol elevated enough to inhibit your other hormone production? Are you a good candidate for low-dose estradiol or progesterone supplementation? There's even an at-home test kit that you can order through my website called the Dutch Complete. I'll put a link in the video description with more information for you to check out. And I'll even help you interpret the results too. So now that we know what changes are happening to your hormones in perimenopause and menopause, let's drill down to the specific ways that these shifts result in weight loss resistance and how we can treat them at the root cause. Number 1 on our list is the impact of declining estrogen levels on insulin regulation. One role of estradiol is to promote the sensitivity of your insulin receptors, balancing your blood sugar and regulating how your cells utilize energy in the form of glucose. When estradiol drops, your cells have a harder time receiving the signal to take glucose from your bloodstream into your cells, meaning that glucose levels in the blood stay higher. This results in a host of degenerative changes, including increased inflammation, more fat storage, elevated cortisol, damage to the inner lining of your blood vessels, and eventually type 2 diabetes. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I'm a huge advocate of balancing your blood sugar. And you may already know that it's my number 1 strategy for dropping stubborn fat. Nutritional strategies for counteracting insulin resistance include eating protein, healthy fats, and lots of fiber from fruits and veggies. Avoiding sweetened beverages like soda and coffee drinks, empty carbs like chips and cookies, and ultra-processed food products can also help. One of my favorite nutraceuticals for combating insulin resistance is berberine. According to a 2012 meta-analysis, berberine was able to help with blood sugar control as much as the common diabetes medication metformin, with far fewer side effects. You can find my favorite berberine product in the free Menopause Fat Loss Checklist, along with all the strategies I'll be discussing in this video. You'll find the link to grab the download in the video description, so be sure to check that out once we finish up here. The second reason that it's hard to lose weight in menopause is that lower estrogenic activity can result in decreased activity of glucagon-like peptide 1, or GLP-1. You may have heard of this very popular hormone that's produced naturally by the cells in your digestive tract. It's also the main target for weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, among many others on the market, and it helps regulate appetite and blood sugar. This estrogenic decline in GLP-1 signaling can result in increased cravings, insulin resistance, and fat gain. The good news is that you can boost your production of GLP-1 using foods. Olive oil, pistachios, eggs, and plain yogurt have all been found to significantly increase the GLP-1 production in your body. Spices like curcumin, rosemary, and cinnamon are flavonoids, which also help promote GLP-1 activity. And our friend berberine is also great at boosting GLP-1. Some even refer to it as nature's Ozempic for this reason. The third consequence of declining estrogen levels that impacts body fat has to do with your gut health. More specifically, the health of your gut microbiome, the 3 to 4 pounds of microbes that live in and on your body. The most important thing to understand about the microbiome is that it plays a crucial, life-sustaining role in your survival as a human. You could not live without your microbiome. It talks to your immune system, your brain, your liver, your lungs, and other body systems. It also plays a large role in maintaining healthy body weight. And guess what? Those friendly microbes are very sensitive to changes in your hormones. One recent study found significant changes to the gut microbiome of mice who had their ovaries surgically removed to simulate menopause. Specifically, these changes were linked to increased inflammation and weight gain, especially when those mice were fed a low-fat diet. It doesn't take much imagination to see how this pattern may play out in humans going through menopause. Your estrogen drops, you start gaining weight, you go on a calorie-cutting diet in an attempt to lose the weight, and your microbiome shifts even more towards metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, and fat gain. But wait, there's good news here. It's already well established that promoting microbiome balance and supporting specific anti-inflammatory keystone bacteria can help reverse weight gain and promote metabolic health. A recently published human trial found that supplementation with a particularly helpful strain called Akkermansia muciniphila decreased body weight by an average of 5 pounds and decreased hip circumference by an average of 1 inch. And these folks were specifically asked not to change their diet or exercise during the 3 months of the study. It's all the power of the microbiome. Eating lots of dietary fiber from fruits and veggies also promotes a balanced microbiome. And polyphenols from foods like pomegranate, blueberry, green tea, and very dark chocolate also encourage beneficial bacteria, including Akkermansia. You can find my favorite supplemental form of Akkermansia, the same one used in the study I mentioned, in my free checklist. And when you order through my Fullscript dispensary, you get a really nice discount. Just FYI, that goes for anything in the Fullscript catalog all the time, so be sure to take advantage of those savings. The fourth reason that weight loss is so difficult in menopause has to do with progesterone and its impact on the function of your thyroid. You might know that the thyroid is in charge of your metabolism, among a whole lot of other important regulatory functions. And you might know that when your metabolism slows down, your body becomes less efficient at burning stored fat. Research has found that menopausal women tend to burn fewer calories at rest, perhaps because lower progesterone is linked to decreased thyroid function. There are several proposed mechanisms for the progesterone-thyroid interaction, but when menopausal women were treated with progesterone therapy, studies found a decrease in thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH, and an increase in free T4, both of which indicate improved thyroid function. Functional medicine experts see so much overlap between thyroid dysfunction and menopause that they coined the term thyropause to describe the symptoms and underlying triggers that contribute to weight loss resistance. If I'm working with a client who's struggling to lose body fat, particularly in perimenopause or menopause, I always want to see a comprehensive thyroid panel, including TSH, free T4, free T3, and thyroid antibodies. This helps us assess the role of the thyroid more deeply than relying on TSH alone, which is more commonly tested in conventional medicine. This is also why it's important to assess progesterone levels. Again, not in the blood, but via dried urine testing like the Dutch test. It helps you determine if your ovaries are making adequate progesterone, and if they're not, you can do something about it. Some women in perimenopause find that chasteberry or Vitex can boost ovarian production of progesterone and improve progesterone sensitivity, making the progesterone that you have more efficient and effective. Clinical trials showed that chasteberry reduced symptoms like breast tenderness, edema or swelling, irritability, depressed mood, anger, headache, and other symptoms of PMS. You'll find my favorite chasteberry product in the free checklist too. While chasteberry is my first line of treatment for low progesterone symptoms before and during perimenopause, as women age, the ovaries can become less responsive to it. So if you don't see much improvement after an 8-week trial, or you're in menopause, it might not be your solution. Thankfully, supplementing with progesterone itself is both safe and effective in menopause. But be sure you're getting actual progesterone, not progestin. You can find low-dose topical progesterone on Fullscript as well, or you can ask your doctor to prescribe oral micronized progesterone. Speaking of hormone replacement, you might be thinking, well, Dr. Kate, if all these symptoms are being caused by low estrogen, what if I just supplemented with estrogen? That's a great point and a good idea for some women. Research evidence is piling up that supports both the safety and efficacy of estradiol supplementation, specifically transdermal estradiol patches or creams, not only for maintaining healthy body composition, but also for preventing bone loss, cardiovascular disease, and dementia. But some women have risk factors that make supplemental estradiol tricky, perhaps because they've had a stroke, a heart attack, or they've had hormone-sensitive cancer. If supplemental estradiol isn't a good fit for you, you might consider plant-based supports that activate other estrogen receptors. My favorite way to safely support estrogen activity without increasing cancer risk is with an extract of Rapontic rhubarb. It's also an excellent way to relieve hot flashes and night sweats. I'll put a link to my favorite practitioner-grade form of this lovely estrogen support in the free checklist. Again, the link will be in the video description. If you're struggling to lose body fat in menopause, I hope these strategies give you some new action steps to take, especially when it comes to figuring out exactly what is going on with your hormones via advanced functional testing. We help folks all over the world get access to Dutch testing and interpret the results in a way that actually moves them toward resolution using functional medicine. So be sure to check out the link in the video description so you can finally understand exactly what your hormones are doing and how to rebalance them even in menopause, especially if symptoms are starting to pile up. And be sure to take advantage of the savings in my Fullscript dispensary. It's where you'll find my favorite practitioner-grade, third-party tested products to address the root causes of weight gain in menopause. Thanks so much for watching, for hitting that thumbs up, and for subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate the support. If you like these videos, you might also like my exclusive video library within my YouTube membership. Tap the join button to learn more and get instant access. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.